How did you get here? How'd you get to New York?
Well, I went to school in Jersey. I've always East Coast kid, raised in Maryland, but a Jersey household. That's how I usually describe it. Because my whole family's from Jersey.
Okay.
We just, for some reason, moved there, and I don't know why. It sucks. But I went to school in New Jersey for theater. Don't do that. And after I graduated, then I moved here, was doing that route for a little bit, and then I found comedy. Yeah.
You went the theater route.
I went theater first for like straight acting. I didn't do musical theater or anything. I can't sing and shit, but yeah, acting first.
How did that go?
And then how did it go?
Yeah, when you gave it a shot.
Not great. Well, I learned that I really like acting. I hate the business side of acting. I hate the pursuit of trying to do the art because it's incredibly discouraging. Comedy is too at times, but you have a lot less control over your ability to actually do the thing because somebody has to pick you for you to even have the shot of like showing them.
Yeah.
There were so many auditions where you just walk in the room and you're standing in a line with 10 people that look like you. And then they're like, okay, the 2 on the end, you can stay. Thank you so much for you guys for coming. And then you just leave. And that was it. Because, they have an idea of what they want. And so it was a lot of that. And that was very frustrating. And also when you're going to school for acting and you're studying it, and you're learning how to do it, you're working with the best text and material that's ever been written. You're doing Shakespeare, you're doing David Mamet, you're doing like the best playwrights. And then you get out of school and the first stuff you're doing is like some kid's senior thesis. And he's like, this is about like, and he's trying to do way too much and it's horrible. It's absolute garbage. And it makes you realize most of like your favorite shows or your favorite... It's all the writing. It's so much like Breaking Bad. Bryan Cranston, amazing actor. Aaron Paul, great actors. The writing on that show is what is phenomenal. I guarantee that you could take a handful of people and you give them that text and like you coach them a little bit, they'd be able to get it because it's that good. And so it was very frustrating. And I've always liked comedy, and then eventually I watched an open mic, and luckily it was bad enough that it made me feel, I was like, well, I could be at least that bad. And then I took a swing.
How long did it take you to go the acting route before you decided to do something else?
I went to school for it 4 years. I came to the city. I was probably doing it a couple years, like as much as I could, I was working and then would audition when I can and then film stuff when I can. It's such a time investment, even if you do book a thing a lot of times, unless you're doing like a commercial. So I was doing it like a couple years, but yeah, none of it was fun. That was my experience.
Did you have an aha moment of let's switch to comedy now, or was it just sheer inertia that led you to look into some other options?
There wasn't an aha moment. I think it was kind of a lingering feeling of, number one, that I don't know if I don't feel totally connected to this community. I always liked the performance part of it. I liked being on stage and I like the acting, the doing of it, but not in the way that some of my other friends did. And always loved comedy, always had a draw to comedy. And I think I always wanted to try it, but just didn't have the courage. And I forget, maybe somebody if somebody was like, you should try to do a blah, blah, blah. The first time I got on stage, it wasn't even an open mic. It was what's called a bringer show, which is where a club it's usually on like a Monday night at 5 p.m. when they don't have anything. They're like, all right, you're a brand new comic. You bring 10 of your closest friends And if you get 15 new comics to do that, you have a sold out room. So I did that. And my first time on stage was a sold out Gotham Comedy Club show.
Really?
Yeah. In front of like 200 something people. And I was doing 5 minutes. And I was comfortable on stage. Like I had good stage presence, but objectively just horrible. Just absolute dog shit comedy. But if you just like turn the sound off and watch my face, you're like, this guy's crushing. This guy is destroying up here. I mean, I was strutting the stage like I was Chris Rock. It's embarrassing. It's just awful.
What was so bad about the material itself in retrospect?
Number one was my whole attitude towards it, because it was so, I would describe as arrogant and almost like I'm already above this whole art form. In that, this is so embarrassing, but like I think literally like the first thing I said, I was like, because I'd watched so much comedy and so much, late night, and so I came out and I was like, "Hey, how we doing tonight? How is everybody?" Other stuff that comedians say. Like I literally was like, I went like meta in a way.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, that's what you say when you open, right? And it's out of pure insecurity, because I couldn't actually be vulnerable. I have to be like, isn't this so weird that we're, doing this or whatever? I did some stupid joke that was in reference to a friend of mine that was in the crowd, and I pointed to him. I referenced that my friends were there. Just very cliche green comic that's bad. Because I've seen that now. I've seen so many people go up for the first time and they have friends in the audience, and they always lean on their friend because they're gonna laugh for them. But yeah, it's just horrible. There's no actual unique point of view or observation. You're just treading water up there.
And despite that, when you got done, did you think you were onto something personally, that this could be something?
The feeling was something I had never felt before. Of that rush of man, that was... Because when I walked off stage, I didn't realize it wasn't great. Because out of 200-something people, enough people laugh at certain things where it feels like you got the laugh.
Yeah.
And it's the best feeling in the world. I'm happy that most people don't know what that feels like. Or there'd be more people trying to do comedy than there already are. It's... So I was like, yeah, I want to do that again. And the feeling of... Because I've gotten laughs in acting and in plays and stuff. And the feeling of doing it, but you wrote the stuff, is even greater.
Yeah.
And I liked the control and the pressure of, if this goes terribly, it's all on you. And if it goes well, it's all on you.
Yeah.
I liked having control over it, and which you don't have really in acting. Acting is very much a partnership and playing off one another, which is fine, but it's not as fine for me.
From there on out, did you decide I'm going to ditch the acting route and devote myself to the comedy route? How did that process happen? It
was a slow bleed of... I was just doing more open mics, and then I was kind of just getting sloppy with acting. I had a commercial agent at the time. She was sending me out on auditions, and I would look at the call, and I'd be like, I know I'm not going to get this, and I don't want to take a day off of work to go do this. And so I just kind of was getting more sloppy, and then eventually I had a conversation with my commercial agent, and we parted ways. So it was kind of one thing after another. I was kind of leaving that world, and I kind of had to change my whole lifestyle because acting and comedy are completely different. Because acting, you're working at night, auditioning during the day, and comedy, most people have their side gig or whatever during the day, and then they work at night. So I couldn't do both, I felt. And so slowly I just started to shift, and I'm like, oh, let me pick up a morning shift, and then I'll have that day to do open mics and stuff. And I would say my first year of comedy, I thought I was like doing it because I did like one open mic a week. I would go with a few buddies who were also actors, but were like, yeah, we'll try this thing. So we would go do an open mic, do 3 minutes, just eat shit, and then go back to his apartment and get high and eat pizza. Like that was a weekly, and we'd like just talk about the mic and what happened. And I was like, yeah, we're really doing it, because I got up once in a week, where when I really started to do it, you're getting up a couple times every single night. And that's the only way to get good.
I would love to know about the strategy of that, of how you go from somebody who's never really worked in stand-up comedy to getting the reps you just talked about. How do you make that real in New York? How did you do that?
It's very, when you're starting out, all you're doing is open mics. It's very easy to sign up and do a bunch of open mics. It's a matter of just knowing where they are and which ones you can kind of make work, of like, okay, I know if I do, there's the Phoenix Bar on 13th Street. That's at 7:00, but it's a 6:30 sign up. So I got to sign up. I'll do that. And if I get there early enough, I'll be first on the list so I can get out and then go down to 7th Street at Climate Lounge. There's an 8:30 mic that I signed up before, because that's an online sign up. So if I go there and then do that. So it's a lot of just like bouncing around and running around, scheduling and that kind of a thing if you really are trying to hustle and get those reps in, which I think every comic should do in the beginning, because it's literally just getting on stage, just write a lot, get on stage a lot, and there's no other formula. I think nowadays I think everyone's kind of looking for shortcuts, but back then, people weren't really doing social media that much, and it was more just like about the hang and getting up there. And you just say so much bad shit, and sometimes it's just like, here's what was happening to me today. Like you kind of learn how to craft a joke, and then you get like a good response. You're like, all right, that was maybe something. You have no unique voice yet. You're probably doing some combination of 4 of your favorite comics. I mean, I was the first at least 2 years in stand-up, I was just doing a bad Bill Burr impression. 100%. Like, even like because I can kind of do an impression of him. When I would start to like drown and I was bombing, I'd literally be like leaning on the mic saying like, like I would just start to... Oh my God, it's brutal, Like it would literally just come out. Oh, dude, the balls you gotta have, Uncanny. So I was just doing that, not even realizing that I was doing it. It was like a mix of that and like Dane Cook physicality. But you just have to work through that. You have to do it and realize that that's not it, and kind of just let comedy will just beat it out of you if you do it long enough. But you also have to be somewhat introspective. You got to listen to your sets. You got to watch your sets and be ruthlessly critical, which is the hardest part.
When you're starting to push yourself to get those reps in, were you intentional about the fact that you're trying to do this thing? Like, you are now trying to become a stand-up comedian, or is this just like play? Like, it's just fun for you? No,
I was not thinking of it like this is what I'm doing now. It was more, it very much was play, and I was not thinking of even how to. I was just like, I just want to get good at this thing. I wanted to get good, and I wanted for my fellow like friends and comics to respect what I was doing. I just wanted to be one of the good guys because you could see people. It's one of the greatest parts about living here is you could see people at every level, and you'd see somebody, you're like, I just want to be that good. I just want to be as good as that guy. I wasn't thinking like, how do I get in at New York Comedy Club? And maybe if I had had those thoughts earlier, I'd be further along. But it just wasn't a thought. And I think it was probably when I started to see other people that I had associated with do things and get things, it made it seem possible.
Yeah.
I think every like 6 months you get like a little sign from the universe that says, keep going, keep doing this, that you can do this. Also, encouragement from other people goes a long way, and we don't do it to each other for some reason.
Yeah.
And I remember almost like every genuine nice thing that somebody said about my comedy that they didn't need to. It wasn't like a forced, you just got off stage and they're giving you like, hey, good set. Like, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about be like, dude, that joke, or like, dude, you really have something. I remember all of them, especially the people that are further ahead of you, because they don't have to reach back and give you that confidence, but it helps so much. Even I look back at some of the stuff people told me and I'm like, yo, you were way wrong about that. That I was not good. I wasn't good, but I rode that high for 2 weeks.
Are those mostly what you mean when you say signs from the universe, or were there other things also that were kind of, the winds that were blowing at your back to keep you going?
Sometimes they're things that people would say, or they were like opportunities. There's a big show I'd never been on before, and I got asked to do that show, or I got, an audition somewhere. Or like, I'd say one of the biggest ones was getting to audition for New York Comedy Club, and then getting passed at New York Comedy Club, because that's a place that I really respect, and people that I really respect perform there.
Yeah.
And so to get into that club and to be like, yeah, you're good enough to be here, and people are going to pay to see you, and they're going to get a babysitter, and this is like date night, and like then it's like, okay, I can do this. It's just a matter of slowly getting better. And every comic has listened to their favorite comic talk about that come up. So it's like, it's possible, but it's hard to believe in yourself.
How did you get that opportunity to even try out for the New York Comedy Club?
Little bit of luck, little bit of right place, right time. So I had the first club I ever got passed at was Stand Up New York. I got they were doing this weird thing. Stand Up New York used to have a podcast called Past the Podcast, and it was a live podcast show where it'd be on it's like a sold out night at the club, and they were live recording the podcast, and then you'd go up in front of a panel, and it was usually 2 guest pro comics and then the booker, and you'd go up and you'd do a set, and they would tell you live on the podcast whether or not you got passed. Brutal amount of pressure. And I went bullet, which is first on the show, and luckily I had a really good set, and I got passed, and that was the first the place like erupted.
Passed doesn't mean being passed on. It means
sorry. Passed means you're in. Like you've passed the bar. I don't know how else to describe it. You're accepted. You made it in.
And that happened with the New York Comedy Club as well.
That happened with that happened with New York. First, it happened at Stand Up New York. That booker left Stand Up New York and went to work at New York as like I forget what her original title was. She was like something new talent coordinator or something like that. And so she had this, and still does, had this like class, this developmental class where you'd go in, you'd like work on stuff, you'd sort of talk about the business of comedy, and then at the end of the class, you got an audition. A lot of people see the class as just a way of kind of bypassing other routes. You just go and get an audition. because the class costs money. So there's a lot of controversy over like, should it exist? Like, is it like a pay your way kind of a thing? But it's not a guarantee. There's plenty of people that take this class, audition, and then do not get passed.
Yeah.
So, and it's very hard to get into. So this was like a few years ago now. I had reached out to try to get in, and we had already had that relationship. So she already knew who I was. So I got into the class. She wasn't the booker at the time. It's this woman, Amy Hawthorne. And so she had nothing to do with the class. And so we went in and, you work on your set or whatever. And then you go up in front of a room that is, they don't know how full it's going to be. They sell tickets like any other show. And you go up in front of the booker and Candy and then whoever's, and then you have a good set or you don't. I luckily had a good set and I got in.
So when you get passed, and I think you said you got passed for Stand Up New York and for the New York Comedy Club. What does that mean for you? What are the details of what it means when you get passed?
Depends on the club. So at New York, I'm in the club now, and then most people start doing the check spot on the show, which is the worst spot on the show. It's where the whole, pretty much the entire show has happened, and everybody in the audience gets their check at the same time. And while they get their check, you go on stage. So you've immediately lost at least half the room because now their head is down and they're doing math. So there's a little bit of like strategy because the checks they'll start to drop them at the front of the door and they'll start. So when you go up, you're kind of talking with these people over here because these people are getting check dropped. So then it slowly starts to move across the room, and then you hope by the time, then you go back and hopefully these people are paying attention. But the whole thing is chaos because people start talking. They're like, no, I had the 2 Coronas. I had the Coronas. She got this shirt. And you just have to, it's a knife fight. That's all it is. It's a knife fight. But you have to learn how to work through that and get these people attention. I mean, that's why New York is known for these just rapid fire, beating you over the head with jokes. Like, you got to be quick. You got to be able to get their attention. And get them to look up and pay attention. So I did that for probably, I was doing checks for like at least a year. That's all I was doing there. And then I eventually got asked to start hosting. And now that's mainly what I do. I host, and then occasionally we'll do like spots on shows, but mainly host there, which is a lot of fun. It's good money. But the goal is to just be doing spots.
And all this while, as you are getting more and more opportunities, you're getting past, you're needing to survive in New York City.
Yeah.
How the fuck did you do that? How are you doing that?
Well, I mean, for like most of me doing stand-up, had side jobs, worked at restaurants, worked at hotels, which, I'll probably have to go back to at some point. I'm not doing anything but stand-up right now. So, which it financially is, like, on paper, it's a terrible decision, but so is my entire life trajectory. One could argue. But it's kind of like we were just talking about before, where I would rather, it's like the Jim Carrey quote, like, you could fail at what you don't want to do, so you may as well take a shot on doing what you love.
Yeah.
And I just believe in that wholeheartedly. And I'm not being like, I'm surviving. I'm not an idiot, but like I was like, I can take some time and just only do this. Let's see what that would look like. And it's been great. And I'm trying to ride it out as much as possible. But everybody's got like some survival job that they do on the side. You figure it out. If you want to do this, you'll figure it out.
What's the best one for flexibility, for income? I don't know if you've settled on one being your preference, but what have you learned?
I think the best ones I'm probably not qualified for, because I would say it's anything it's probably something where you're working from home and your hours are somewhat flexible. I think if you needed to take a day off or like a weekend and you're not going to get shit, that's great because you'll eventually need to do that. I mean, for most, I've mainly worked in hospitality or in restaurants and something like that, which can be tough the more you elevate in comedy because you need your weekends free, you need your nights free. And when you think of a restaurant, it's like nights and weekends it's where you're going to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
But I was working weekday and like breakfast, lunch. So that's how I would get by. I'm eating a lot of food at the restaurant. I mean, I am eating. I was like, I'm loading up on the family meal. I would eat. I mean, depending, it was a nice restaurant. Like if I could kind of like eat around, I would eat stuff that came back. We served a lot of celebrities. I'd eat off their plate because like celebrities are skinny. They don't fucking eat anything. They order a lot and they never touch it. They never touch it. Kelly Ripa would order a frittata and never touch it. And I would always I'm like, let's go. Just munch it. She's like 40 pounds. I mean, that like I survived winters because of her. So, you figure it out. There was the restaurant I used to work at for a long time. They served this sourdough pancake that was literally, it was massive, but it didn't say like large anywhere on the menu. So people would order it thinking like, I could take this down, and it was dense. They would eat like a sliver of it and tap out. So I knew every shift I'd at least get one. I could have one pancake. Like I'd be full enough to where I could survive. And that was kind of my goal because I'd get to work at like 6:30 in the morning and I'd probably leave around 3:30 and then I'd go out and do comedy. And the goal was to get full enough by 3:30 where I could stretch until the next day.
Yeah. I would imagine most comics are in a similar situation where they're trying to survive to free up their time to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
When you're having to do that work to support yourself, is it more a sense of like, this is a rite of passage? Is it, this is so frustrating. I have to burn 7 hours a day doing this job. How have you thought about that over the past few years?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I think you should do something that, even your survival job, I don't think you should hate.
Yeah.
Because then you're not going to be in a good place mentally when you do go and do comedy, because you're just going to be so spiritually drained. Yeah. Like I actually enjoy. My dad was a chef. Like I love restaurants. I love the environment of it. I think chefs are the closest thing to comics. Like and other people have had this idea, but like my dad was a chef, and like there's just something about the energy of it, the creativity, the kind of gallows humor that goes on. Like they're misfits, outcasts that are making something for you. And so I loved working at a restaurant. Every day was different, so it was never the same dull thing I'm doing every day. But it was just hard work physically. And then I worked at a hotel. I was working like front desk type stuff. Yeah. And that would just completely drain me. Even though it was less demanding physically, and I think what it was like with a restaurant, the person is stationary, and I come up to you and I have an interaction, and then I get to leave. Yeah. But at the desk, you're trapped. I could see people walking off the elevator, and I'm like, here comes 20 minutes, and they'd like, my HVAC unit is rattling, and I knew I'm stuck here and I can't leave. and it would give me such anxiety. I mean, yeah, I could not take it, and I had no interest in any of this. Like, I'm a big proponent of you shouldn't, in spite of how shitty your job is. Oh, like some people just don't try because they have a bad job. Like I would always try to do a good job, even though it wasn't what I wanted to do. But man, it was hard sometimes. And that was my last job. And I just remember having a moment of like, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
I do not belong here. And I would get just unbelievably depressed. And I also had a similar moment when I was working at the restaurant. And it inspired me to leave. I was like, I don't belong here. And I have a personal tell that I've noticed now with jobs where when I should leave, because I will start to sabotage myself at the job, and I will start to do bad things. Like I was managing at this was like 2020, like fall, like, you know, so restaurants are opening back up, but for the first time, and nobody really knows what this is.
Yeah.
And we're trying to serve outside, and it's masks and stuff. And I was managing at night because there wasn't really stand up yet. And so I'm managing, but there's nobody's really out. So I got nothing kind of to do. So I would go into the restaurant and I would just drink. I'd have the bartender be like, make me up a Negroni. And then I would go in this like broom closet and watch TV on my phone and just sip a Negroni, not realizing I'm like, this is so depressing. And then I just pop my head out. I'm like, still nobody? Okay. And I would do that. I would, I would order food I wasn't supposed to for myself. I was just doing bad stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, let me leave before I get fired.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in a similar position of like, I hate this, but I need it.
Yeah. Then there's the financial component of being a comedian.
Yeah.
Somebody told me within the last week during one of these conversations that even for people at the Comedy Cellar, they're earning $30 a set. I don't know if you know the financial details of the comedy world in New York, but anything you would like to share. I go to so many of those events and they're packed. A lot of them. And the New York Comedy Club sells out almost every show. So does the Comedy Cellar. I would have thought the people that are performing there are making pretty damn good money. But you tell me, what are the details?
There's some people that are surviving off of spot money. I think every comedian will tell you that it's not enough and that it needs to be bumped up. I think every club is similar in that the host gets paid the most, which is correct because you have the biggest time commitment.
Yeah.
You have to be there the whole show, whereas suppose you can and so, you know, some people might argue let's call it $50 for a spot. It's like, oh, you went up there, you did 15 minutes of work. You got $50.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah.
What are you complaining about?
$200 an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
But if that was your one spot of the night, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Also, you are the reason people are coming out to this thing. So yeah, there's an argument that comics should definitely make more money, but also there's the argument that you're kind of there. The whole thing of this is really we're selling drinks. We're selling food and drinks.
Yeah.
And that's really where the money is made. It's not off the ticket. I mean, the first thing that they're going to comp is the ticket price. That's what they always give the deals. There's clubs where you come in and the first thing they do is they give you a free ticket to come back another time. Just get the 2 drinks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's incredibly difficult to survive off of purely spot pay, which is why the goal, and I think most big comics will tell you this, is, you don't make money in the city. You make money on the road. The city's where you get good. That's what it's for. But then you should be doing the road. That's the ultimate goal, which I am not there doing it myself. I've done a few gigs where I'm headlining on the road, but it's for pennies. I'm literally doing it just for the time, the stage time, because getting that much time in the city is not going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the next skill where I'm at, is like learning how to be a really good headliner. Like, I'm confident in my ability to, I've featured countless times, and that's mainly what I do on the road, is I'll feature for friends or whoever, I'm going out with. But yeah, that's where the real money is made.
Compare and contrast that of like what somebody who is a known comic in national consciousness, they go on the road. Are they making 10 times the money at an arena? I know it depends on who we're talking about, but in general,
you're doing an arena, like if you're Nate Bargatze, I would guess you're pulling in like $1 million at least, at least. Think about if it's a rock band, and then think about the overhead that a rock band has.
So true.
And then think about the overhead of a comedian. Flip the switch.
Give him a mic.
Is the mic on? That's all. Some people do a lot more. That's really all you need. Even theaters, 100,000, like probably something like that. I know people who open for those people, and I have a rough estimate of what they make, and they're opening. And so you can extrapolate that they're making very good money. And then break that down to now a comedy club, sold out weekend at a comedy club. You're making really good money. I think anybody who's doing theaters will tell you that they would have never thought they were going to do theaters. And then the same goes for arenas and all this other, to strive for that, to me, seems silly. Everybody has a different definition of success. For me, it's, can I live comfortably solely off of this and have enough people like what I do that when I put shows on sale, I know people will come.
Yeah.
Because that is the number one anxiety for every comic who's headlining. And that's what I've heard from the people that I'm opening. When you're opening, it's the most cushy spot on the show. You're not hosting, so you don't have to go up there cold. You get to do 20 minutes. You're doing your best stuff. You go up there and kill. You don't have the pressure of bringing people out and making sure people show up. And now the club's not looking at you to being like, wow, nobody's here. That's the job. Getting people there is the job.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for that.
Who are the great comedians in your mind in this city that most people have never heard of?
Ooh, great question. When I say most people, I'm going to say like maybe the laymen haven't.
For sure.
They're
not the Bill Burr. They're not the Chris Rock.
Right. They're not the Bill Burr. I think Joe List is so funny and unbelievably prolific. Just quietly prolific, putting out really good shit, which seems like every year he's got something great, coming out. Who else? Jeffrey Asmus, I think is really good. I would say maybe not quite at his, maybe slightly below Joe in terms of like notoriety, but I think really funny stuff. Renan Hirschberg, another guy who's like extremely funny. Jordan Jensen, she's kind of blowing up right now, but she's super fun to watch and different and just chaotic. You can't tell what's a bit and what's just kind of stream of consciousness. Maddie Weiner, who's like, she's like 25. She's at the Cellar. just seem to come out of nowhere, but just crushes every time I've seen her. There's so many. I mean, it's inspiring and it's disheartening. Another guy who I would describe as like you have to see him live is a guy named Mike Britt. I mainly see him at New York Comedy Club. He, you watch him and you're not necessarily blown away by the material all the time, but blown away by there could be a show every comic could go up and just have like a whatever mid set, like this crowd's weak, it's whatever, and he will find a way within 60 seconds he's going up and he's crushing, absolutely crushing, and it's so disheartening because you're like, what are you doing? And I've had to follow him doing checks so many times. And you're like, do I try to ride that energy? How do I still be myself? But these people loved him, and I'm like, they're gonna hate me. It's so, yeah, it's demoralizing. But there's a lot of great people. But yeah, those are the ones that come to mind.
I don't know if you've noticed themes that can be articulated, but what makes a really great comedian in your mind?
Having a mastery over the most amount of tools. Like, there's a lot of things that are tools in comedy, like act outs, hyperbole, like sort of like visuals. I would say crowd work is a tool that's kind of being beaten to death right now. Yeah, sort of like modulation of energy and pacing, economy of words. I would just say your ability to be silly. Like, to me, Louis is the best. Louis C.K. is the best. I think he has all of those things. There's specials where he is like, he's being really silly. He's doing like these dumb, like animal joke observations, stuff like that. But then he can be incredibly insightful and almost philosophical and make you think. He can shock you. He can do act outs. He does voices. He does all the things at a high level. And I think it's I don't know. It's not appreciated in the same way today. There's a lot of people doing stand up that are getting into stand up that are kind of what I call like coasting off of vibes.
Yeah.
It's a lot of just like vibes right now. And I think that every sort of era has a crop of comedians that everybody's doing. For a while, everybody was doing Dave Attell. Everybody was doing Mark Normand, Bill Burr. I think a lot of people are doing Shane Gillis right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing Shane, which I kind of get. Like, I was doing Bill when I started. There's a lot of people starting right now that are doing a really just... I'm like, are you aware of it? Are you aware of how much... And I'm talking everything to the, like, mannerisms, to the hand gestures. I'm like, this guy's not even from Philly. like it's so clear to me. And I'm like, please work through that, you know? So yeah, I would say it's a tool set and being unique. How are you any different? What sets you apart?
Yeah.
Like, am I getting your thoughts on things? But it's hard to get there. There's a lot of people doing this that have nothing to say.
Yeah.
But they just need, they don't want to be a comedian. They want to appear to be a comedian.
That's a good way to put it. We talked about 3 venues thus far: the Comedy Cellar, Stand Up, and New York Comedy Club. What are the other lesser known favorite venues for you? The great comedy venues in New York, if any come to
lesser
mind.
Known.
That as a fan you would enjoy going to, or even as a performer?
Did you say Gotham? I think Gotham is a great.
I love it. Yeah.
Gotham, that upstairs room is great for comedy. I would have said the old stand. The old stand on 20th and 3rd was great. It was downstairs, low ceilings, packed, tight room. The laughs, kind of just reverberate all. Like that's what you want.
Like the cellar.
Yeah, exactly. That original room in the cellar it's just a kill box.
Yeah.
New York Comedy Club Gramercy, I would describe as that. It's small room, 110 max, maybe. So you really want to be packed in there. I'm trying to think what else. There's so many rooms now that are just popping up that aren't quote unquote comedy club. Like Flophouse is a comedy club, but just kind of just opened. There's a lot of spots that Don't Tell Comedy does, where you're like, this isn't a strict comedy club, but it works because of the way you've set it up. It doesn't take much to have a good room for comedy, but it doesn't take much to have it all go wrong either.
Yeah.
And most of the time, the audience is definitely not aware of it. But there's some sort. I mean, I used to run a show with a buddy of mine at this like underground kind of speakeasy thing in this restaurant called Tara Rose, and it was mostly a good room, just low ceilings. It's very intimate. We were packed in there, but there were a few things that made it bad. It was a long room. So the people, you don't want like a really long, kind of skinny room, because then the people in the back feel disconnected to the show and they kind of check out. Then there wasn't a proper stage. And even if it's a foot, you need some sort of distinguished physical thing that's like, I am the performer, you are the audience. Yeah. And even if it's subconscious, if they're just standing on the floor, there's something about it, they don't respect you. So I think as long as a room has low light, audience has to be as low light as possible, because the more they're lit, then they're self-conscious because you can see them, a room I really like performing at, that I perform at a lot. It's not actually in the city. It's just over in Jersey City. It's at this place called Dorian's. It's a restaurant. It's a side room of a restaurant. But it's like a proper club now. It's called the Laugh Tour. They do shows Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. It's run by my buddy Rich Campco, and he just like built it into this proper club, and it has all of those things. And it doesn't matter that it's in a restaurant. Like, it works. Yeah. It's a club.
Yeah.
It's great.
I don't know if there are other historical comedians that come to mind for you. You mentioned one of the greats, Louis C.K., but are there other people from history that you look to on that Mount Rushmore category? I don't know if you put Louis on there, but who in your mind are
Louis definitely
the all-time greats?
I mean, that's such a, because it depends on if you're talking like your all-time favorites or just like in terms of their contributions to comedy, because it's somewhat subjective. So I mean, I'll say most like influential to me. Yeah, definitely Louis and Burr are up there. I would say Brian Regan. I have to put Dane Cook just from how big he was when I was like coming up in comedy. Like he kind of I don't think he gets his flowers now, but I mean, everybody was trying to be that guy. Yeah. And I think I took a little piece from each one of those people. And then, so what's that? 4? Throw one more in there. I just felt like this sudden urge. I'm like, you got to put a lady in there. And I'm like, you know what? No, I don't. No. There's a ton of, obviously, funny female comedians, but just the ones that are influential to me. Yeah. Dane Cook and probably Chappelle.
Yeah. You said earlier that a lot of people you notice are I forget exactly how you phrase it, but they're trying to appear as though they have something to say rather than having something to say. They're trying to appear to be a comedian rather than being a comedian. How do you know? How did you know, or do you know that you have something to say that is surprising, is funny, is, to some degree relevant for people to hear? To me, that's a very rare human quality, especially as somebody who will do that in front of strangers.
Well, I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people do have something to say, but they're afraid to. They're afraid to say it, or they think nobody will want to hear it, and maybe that's true. I don't know. I think it's a thing you discover through free writing, because I think that's how you kind of get past talking about the things you think you should be talking about, and you get to the core of like, well, how do I actually feel about this? Which I think is always the most important, or like the most interesting part of any joke that sticks with you. Because there can be great like jokes, but the emotional connection, like how they made you feel, I always know how you feel about the thing. Like that's another thing that Louis is great at. You know how he feels about this, whether he's aggravated, that's the stuff that I think people connect to, and that people want to come back and see. And that, I don't know, that's always the question that I'm trying to answer for myself, and for why is this worth telling? Like, I'll write about something, and does it pass the who gives a shit test? Who gives a shit? You wrote this thing about, like, is it, why, who cares? Why? You know what I mean? Like, what are you actually trying to say? And start from there. And it probably won't start as funny, but it often doesn't.
Yeah. Last question I want to ask you is about advice you would give your younger self when you were switching into comedy. I know you've been doing this for a number of years. What have you learned that you wish you would have learned then, which is similar to the question of what advice would you give a family friend or a friend of yours who's trying to break into comedy in New York for the first time?
I'll say the obvious ones of just like get up as much as you can and write as much as you can, but I would say get organized, and really keep track and have a system for keeping track of like what you have, what you're working on, and things that maybe aren't ready to be worked on, but you want to work on them, and just have some sort of system to keep track of what it's so easy for things to kind of just get lost in the shuffle when you're writing. If you're writing so much, like things kind of just get pushed down, and then you don't really develop anything because you're just kind of doing something new every time. I would say, find a way to organize your stuff in a way that you can keep track of it. Because otherwise you're going to be 5 years later going through old notebooks, rediscovering all this stuff that probably was a good idea.
Yeah.
At the time, you just weren't a good enough comic to figure it out. And now, like, I use this app called Scrivener. It's a writing app, and I have folders. I have folders that are like, these are the jokes that I know work. These are the new jokes that I'm working on. And then I have a folder of maybe one day. And those are the ones where I believe in the idea. There's something to it. I've tried it a million times. I just can't crack it. It needs to be shelved for now, and maybe I'll come back to it someday, and I'll have a fresh perspective, and I'll figure that out. But it's there. I have it there. So yeah, just taking it seriously. Treat it like you would like it's a job, like it's a profession. Because there's so many, like you're not, and you're going to show up to your side job or whatever. Like you show up for that every day. You have to. You clock in, you put the work in. Like comics are so lazy when it comes to their favorite thing. It's like, yeah, sit down, write every day, go through, do the sets, do the not fun work. Everyone just wants to go up on stage and do the fun stuff. It's so brutal to listen to your sets. It's so brutal, but you have to listen to your sets. Watch yourself as much as you can. I'm trying to get back into that where I would only record video record long sets, but now I'll do even open mics because you'll learn things. You'll learn little ticks. You're standing in a weird way that you didn't realize. Just do all the work that's not fun as much as you can
to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And surround yourself with people who have the same mindset about comedy as you do, and write together and pitch each other stuff. Find those people that you can do that with because it's so beneficial and it helps. I mean, I'm the type of person I like having other people keep me accountable and I keep them accountable. And then you grow together.
Yeah. Thank you. This is great.
Thank you so much.